the issue that we talked about earlier. Websites. We don't know who's behind them. We know that they want something from us. And in some cases, even helpful little programs, maybe school programs, maybe websites that we like to hang out on, maybe games. They have a way of asking us to fill out profiles and to complete these various parts. And they say, look, you haven't finished filling out your personal information. Whenever you hear personal information, you should perk up and say, wait a minute, I'm giving you my personal information, but I don't actually know who you are. So if I give you this personal information, whoever you might be, you're likely going to share it with others. And if you're asking for that personal information, do you really need it? So that's the real question to ask. Do you really need my information? And how come you won't tell me who you are when you're asking me for the data? So always think in those terms. Think about, do I know who's asking me this question? Because if I were on the street and somebody walked up to me, I would think that it's kind of weird that some stranger is asking me for this information. And even in that case, I would see who's asking. And in that case, I would likely say, yeah, no thanks. But here we are on the internet, and a page is asking us who we are, where we live, all kinds of interesting little tidbits. And sometimes they ask us not all at once for all this information. So always be careful in answering questions, especially questions that are part of games. Like on social media, there's a lot of little quiz games that ask you things like, well, just enter your name and we'll tell you something about your name, or talk to us about your dreams, or anything of a personal nature that pretends to give you something in return when particularly that something, one, hasn't got any value. Two, you've never thought about it before. Three, you certainly weren't looking for it. So be aware that if you get a question or you're told that, hey, you know what? This we just can't move on because you haven't entered your information. You're going to need to do some thinking about whether you want to share that information, whether you even want to have anything to do with this game or this website or this device, and maybe discuss it with others. One of the first things I do is check a privacy policy, but that's what we're going to talk about later.